I nearly did a knee slide on concrete in shorts.
How are you feeling about that, mate?
I mean, what the fuck do you think, mate? Of course, it stinks. I'm livid. I'm depressed. I'm sad.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Social Media Derby podcast. It's the podcast where we discuss the two most followed Premier League teams around the world. And we've got a very interesting show coming up for you today after a result that some people might consider beautiful and some others might consider horrific. So, we've got a great show lined up. We're going to talk about the results, the performances, and some of the controversies, because I know obviously Ten Hag came out and started moaning, so we've got to go through some of those. But first, we've got a very special guest to introduce, a friend of mine now for over a decade. It makes me feel old to say that.
Oh, wow.
But welcome to the podcast, Razor. How you doing, mate?
What's going on? How are you guys doing?
I don't think Ant's doing very well.
Yeah, I've been better. This has been a good show. Thanks, guys. Speak to you next week.
It's already begun. He's kissing the badge after 5 seconds. Good Lord.
Hey, man, I pulled up to my morning meeting for work today wearing this.
Oh.
I was like, let everybody know. Let everybody know.
I'll do the same.
All right, so for those of you that don't know, Ray, do you want to give us a quick introduction to yourself? And obviously, we don't need to ask you who you support, but anything you want to promote, anything you want to tell everyone about yourself?
Yeah, hello peoples. I'm Reza. I'm creative, but not in the sort of jarring way that everyone says they're creative nowadays. That's actually my job title. I work for the company that is sort of behind the commercial bits and pieces on platforms like Goal, Mondial, Indivisa. That's the day job. When I'm not doing that, I do radio, podcasts, content creation, make music, I DJ. I basically have an aversion to sleeping. That's my bag. I don't like sleep. I'm outside. Yeah. I've known Jonty for a long, long time now.
Yeah, and you've been outside every single minute of that, brother. Yeah.
Accusations.
All right, so let's get into it now. Just before we do that, Ant, generally speaking, apart from the result, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Can't complain. It's just mad fresh. It's too fresh, man. I wish we had a couple of days between a result and this podcast so I could have calmed down a bit. I'm seeing too much waffle online. I'm seeing too much waffle online. Not. And to make it even worse, one of you twats from the Arsenal fan base headbutted my legend as well. Keep your stupid heads to yourself, mate. What are you doing touching Roy Keane?
True, but I mean,
taking L's everywhere.
Technically legends, had to come in and...
Yeah, exactly.
Had to come in and defend him, mate. Roy Keane's one of my favourite players and he can't even defend himself. Shocking.
There's a lot of things there. There's a lot of things there that I'm a bit iffy about. One, I don't know if you guys saw it, but before Luton played West Ham on Sky Sports, they had Carragher and Neville walking through the West Ham fans in the away end, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know if we'd be able to do this a couple of years ago. I don't know if we could do this." It's bruv, you're Roy Keane. If you're rolling through just Arsenal, Arsenal fans are going to have a little... I don't condone anybody headbutting, man. Obviously, that's a bit crazy. But, if it escalated from someone saying something to someone, it's just all right, cool. And also, only Michael Richards thinks that Michael Richards is a Man City legend. I love Michael Richards. He's great. He's a wonderful pundit. He was a great player. He played at top level. You can't take that away from him. But, legend.
They haven't got very many, right? Outside of Vince Company, then Sean Goater. Come on. Who else they got?
The current crop of legends.
Yeah, they could have got Yaya or something. I mean, Yaya's not really understandable. I've seen some of his speeches and stuff, and sometimes you don't know what he's saying. But you could have got Yaya, David Silva. They've got a crop that's not playing right now. They could have got Micah's just
Aguero.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get into it now. We're going to talk through a review of the match, and so for anybody that didn't watch it. Spoiler alert, maybe, but I think if you're watching this podcast, you probably did. So Arsenal beat United 3-1 in a very tightly contested match at the Emirates. It was a cagey game to start out. It wasn't the most free flowing game. You could tell that this was a match between two big teams. They were both kind of just feeling each other out. So let's start first of all. We obviously know that the bulk of the goals came late on for Arsenal. And then was it the 96th minute and then the 99th minute? So I guess my first question really is for Razor here. So did you feel like the scoreline was an accurate reflection of the game? 3-1 versus what you saw?
I feel like when it comes to United, there are certain things that I feel like I know about the fixture. Like I was saying to guys in the run up to it, I was like, right, Rashford, they were like, we were talking about FPL and they were like, Rashford, I don't know if Rashford's been firing. I was like, Rashford loves it against us. Like Rashford will turn up. And he's back on the left because you guys, United got a striker now. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, I can see it being a spicy affair. I think the thing with United this season is they've just looked like kind of out of sorts. And I think when I was watching the game, I was like, all right, cool. It's a big fixture. They're going to turn up. There's a balance. There's bits and pieces here. But ultimately, like, I feel like overall, we're a side that know what we're doing generally most of the time if we don't mess around with it too much. And United are very much at the time right now, I think it's fair to say, a side that don't really know what they're doing. And I just felt like that was always going to outweigh, like throughout it. I was the Garnacho offside, that heart in my mouth, scared. But yeah, other than that, like I did feel like we were always like going to edge it, or we looked the more likely to nick a win.
And did you feel the same way? I've been seeing some tweets from the United fan base. Obviously, some of them are, I guess, satirical. They're just taking the mick a bit. But did you feel like it was a 3-1? Did you deserve a 3-1 spanking there, or?
You cheeky bastard! No, I don't think it was a 3-1. But I have to agree with what Razor's saying though. Like when Garnacho scored, it was first of all I thought we'll get into it afterwards, but I was surprised, and then I felt like after that or even before that, if someone was going to nick it, it would have been Arsenal. Like, I think 3-1 glosses it a bit, obviously last minute or whatever. But if you won 2-1, I think that would have been fair. I think if we had won, it would have been a smash and grab job. But I think a 1-1 wouldn't have been nuts either, because I don't think looking at the stats too, and just with the eye test, I don't think either team played really well. I think I agree with Razor though that Arsenal, you could tell, were just a bit better with the ball. Like, we gave the ball over a lot, and you could tell we're not really confident. But you guys still did look a bit fragile. So I think off the base of the play, I wouldn't have been shocked, and I wouldn't have thought, I could understand if you drew at home, you would have been a bit annoyed, because also you probably had, the Havertz chance and the Saka chance, which I think people are not talking about too much in the second half. But it wasn't like you were knocking down the door. And I think last year when we played, I feel like we actually played better, but you still deserved the win. I feel like you guys were like proper pressuring us for the last 20, 25, 30 minutes of the match. Whereas I think in this game, I didn't feel that way. I felt like we were gonna crumble because we're crumblers. But I didn't feel like Arsenal. I didn't feel like you guys were proper sticking it on us, and it was like just a matter of time. I felt like we would have to do something stupid or a moment of brilliance for us to lose that game, but I thought it was totally possible. And then the way it went was just United away, and Arsenal at home, to be fair as well, in the big games. Like, I think in the big games you guys put pressure on teams. I'm thinking of us last year, Liverpool last year, Spurs last year. Basically everyone except City, you played that way where it felt like you guys were gonna win. So I'm not surprised, but it's cruel to lose it that way. But no, I'm not going to get any the violins out from you lot. All right.
No, you're definitely not yet. We've had enough moaning from some of your fan base already, so I think we'll leave that one there. And your manager, yeah, true. But so let's get into it a little bit, and let's review some of the goals that we saw and some of the performances. So I wanted to obviously go through the first thing that we saw, the Rashford goal. So we saw some shots off target from the Gunners from the the kind of the get go. Nothing was really sticking, and then you just saw Havertz passing it straight into Eriksen's path. and he puts through it was a beautiful through ball. Say what you want about Eriksen's performance yesterday, but it was an absolutely beautiful through ball to Rashford, who looked like Ben White was trying to guide him onto his left, and it looked like he was being very aggressive in that. But somehow Rashford still finds it back in, finds a way to cut back in, and puts it past past Ramsdale. Ramsdale did get a little touch on it, pushed it onto the post, but still went in. I'm going to ask you first, Razor. How were you feeling when you saw that go in, and what's your analysis of the play? Is there someone at fault there? Who could have done better? Who did really well?
I don't want to scapegoat Kai Havertz, yeah, because I know like some people land in a new club. Some players land in a new club or a new situation, yeah, and it's like, okay, business, like from the word go, we're printing money here, like we know what we're doing, and that hasn't been the case. Like I think that's fair to say, and I feel like there's a lot more harsh criticism of him floating about. Do you know what I mean? I think I'll start off by saying I think Kai Havertz is a great player. I think he experienced what a lot of great players have experienced at Chelsea, and to be fair, like United as well, where they go there, the system doesn't really suit them. They don't get to show that, and they get to be thought of as a bit rubbish or a bit of a flop. And then I think what's difficult is that Kai is struggling a bit more than, even like Jorginho or like Declan Rice is in terms of adapting to what he's being asked. The real problem, so if you ask me it was Kai Havertz's fault that we lost the ball in such a silly way. Of all the people that you want to lose the ball to in that midfield, Eriksen is not the guy, because he can definitely whip that final. And the ball was beautiful. It was great. Rashford's back on the left, like where he likes to play. He's gonna try and do something to be like to Ten Hag, like, yo, you, bruv, I don't care. Don't move me from my position again. Do you get me? Like, he's gonna do something. It's gonna be a statement, innit? So I saw it all happen and I felt it. I think defensively, yeah, like Ben tried to put him on his left. Do you know what I mean? He's done really well. He's got the pace. He's got the better of him in open play. Like Saliba tried to get involved, I think. And I think that's probably what maybe obscured Ramsdale a little bit from being able to save it, because Rambo's Hollywood. He does make those kind of saves. The ones that you think are definitely going in, like you bet money on it. He's like, nah, I got you. I got one or two of these in me today. Like I can't stop them all, but yeah, I feel like it was just unfortunate. But yeah, I think Kai Havertz really doesn't look like certy, as the man would say, in that area of the pitch. So whose fault was that goal overall? Big Super Mick, because he's determined. He's determined to continue starting Havertz in this role. And I'm a big Arteta fan. I was a big Arteta fan when he was a player. I'm still a big fan of him now as our manager. But so stubborn. Please.
I love it. You played the Uno reverse card there. I wasn't expecting that one. I like it. I like it. I'm a big Mikel fan, but I like that. But to get onto the feelings, when you saw that, I'm assuming you watched the game live. When you saw that goal go in, just describe for me, how were you feeling at that point?
There was the initial like sinking in my stomach. I was like, but like I feel like where we are now as a side is so different to how I used to feel about Arsenal like 4, 5, 6 seasons ago. Do you know what I mean? Like I see us concede a goal, which we've got a bit of a habit of doing early on sometimes in matches, and I'm not like terrified anymore, because I know like, all right, like we've got players that are creative, we've got players that can come on and impact the game and change things if our manager decides to like sort of make those changes and choices. And I think like yesterday was a good example of that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I wasn't too like, obviously it's United. There's certain games that I'm like, yeah, we got 3 points. Yeah, we got a point. United, I want all 3 points. I want a clean sheet. I want to see people like Antony crying on social media. That's what I want. Like, I need it all. So yeah, I was disappointed, but I wasn't at that point. I wasn't like,
you weren't too worried.
Nah,
I get you. Well, let's ask the opposite, Ant. How were you feeling at that point? And what did you think of the pass? What did you think of the finish in the end? Was it a well worked goal, or do you think Arsenal could have done better there?
I think it's both, man. To be perfectly honest, I think, let's be real, United for the last 5 years, the only kind of strength we've really had is the transition. And I mean, but you could go even further back. You know, we've done that to you guys at Emirates since you moved in. When we were good, transitioning now to when we've been we've scored that counter-attacking goal against you guys, and the score has been different nearly every single time, but the play has almost been identical. The moves, the number of passes, the speed of it is pretty much identical from, you know, Nani, Park Ji-sung days 10 years ago or whatever to Rashford now. So I wasn't shocked to see us score it. I agree with Razor in a couple of things. Obviously, Havertz, you're trying to be nice there. You probably over-egged the pudding as well, saying he's a great player. I think he was a great prospect when he went to Chelsea, because he was young, innit? And I don't think he's realised it at Chelsea. And obviously, it's very early to say whether he's going to do it or will, you know, or is currently doing it for Arsenal. At the moment, he's looking a bit smelly, and it just seems like a lot of the things that he does, that, you know, the little lapses that he has are leading to, in this case, a goal, or in other cases, you know, missing a chance or something like that. He's not getting covered up for making little mistakes. Let's put it that way. And your fan base are on him, and the rival fans are on him too, because it's jokes to cuss him, because you've obviously earmarked him as the Xhaka replacement. But the caution on that is, look at how Xhaka was for basically 75% of his career at Arsenal. You man were on him as well, and the last 2-3 years he turned it around. And I didn't think it was possible, man. I'll be real. With some players, you can kind of say, "Oh, I think they're going to do it." When Xhaka was taking his shirt off and telling you guys to F off, I thought it was done. So unless Havertz goes to that extreme, I think you guys got to keep the faith and just hope that Mikel, you know, I don't think Mikel's talent ID can be questioned yet. Like, pretty much all the signings he's made, or at least 75%, have turned out to be good players. So you just have to kind of get through this rocky period. But it was definitely his slack pass that led it all off. But then I think you can blame all those guys that Razor just touched on. I think Ben White got cooked by Rashford for 80% of that match yesterday. And I've got to be real, I like Ben White, Johnson. I've told you loads, right? I think he was probably top 3, top 2 right backs last season with Trippier. And I've been surprised by how good he's been at right back. I think he's really good going forward, which I didn't expect. But Rashford, going back to his Brighton days, has been his kryptonite. Like, he's been cooking Ben White back at Brighton. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a styles thing, but the same way Saka, for example, cooks Luke Shaw every single time, similar type of thing happens with Ben White. So I wasn't shocked to see him kind of get twisted up a little bit. The Saliba one was a bit weird. I don't know why he came over. I think maybe he was a bit aware of Ben White maybe having a bit of trouble with Rashford, so tried to back him up. But then it kind of, like Razor said, it caused a little bit of mayhem for Ramsdale, because I think if he had foresight, he probably would have saved it. I was surprised it went in. I thought it was a good goal, but I do think that the chain of events kind of leading from Ben White being a bit shaky with Rashford kind of caused it. And then, yeah, I agree with Razor. I think that kind of save is on the cards for Ramsdale. And, you know, he makes those kind of saves normally. But yeah, obviously I was happy. But, you know, I was watching some content of some United fan channel guys, and pretty much all of them encapsulated like how I felt at that time, which is joy that we scored, but then that worry that we're going to concede an equaliser real quick, like we did last season to you lot. And the only thing that was different was we managed to do it in a quicker time. I think last season it was 2 or 3 minutes. This time it was like 30 seconds, and you guys had equalised. So you can't even actually
Let's get onto that now then. Exactly, right? So, I mean, I can be honest, I felt absolute dread. I was punching pillows. I was going off, because the way that we conceded it, the fact that it was Havertz that did it, it lit something inside of me that just, it made me go crazy. But obviously, you know, we immediately struck back with, I think, a very well-worked goal. It kind of reminded me of like the Arsene Wenger days of, you know, when everyone used to say we're trying to pass it into the net and all that rubbish. But it was beautiful, you know, the link-up play there between Martinelli and Nketiah. I know that you obviously were talking about Ben White getting battered by Rashford all game, but I mean, I think Arsenal fans might agree that Wan-Bissaka was getting the work as well, because in that lead up to that goal, Martinelli played some beautiful passes, managed to get one back off Nketiah, which I thought was, you know, a really good pass back out to Nketiah, and then he's placed it beautifully for the man, the myth, the legend, Martin Odegaard to play straight past Onana. So at that point, how did the feelings change, and was there anything that went wrong there for United, or do you think that was just an unplayable goal from the beautiful Arsenal attack?
No, I think it was a great goal. It was a really good team goal, and it was worked really well. Like this is the thing about Arsenal. I think when you guys know how to speed up the play, which I think is a really good thing. And it's something you can kind of say City have been traditionally quite good at when they've keep hold of the ball, and then in the final third, the last actions, you start to speed it up, and that's when you cause teams trouble. And I think you did that for that goal. But I don't think it was like a goal which wasn't avoidable. Like there were too many spaces, and you could see Martinez. I saw like a close up of Lissandro like shouting at bare man to try and get them in the right positions, and everyone was basically like all over the shot. Eriksen being the main player, obviously, who I think lost his man when Odegaard got free for the finish. But it was worked really well. So when the goal like that goes in, I'm not too mad at that goal being conceded. I'm more mad at think about the City goals we conceded back in the last season in the FA Cup final. I was livid with those because I feel like those are completely avoidable goals. But this one, at least, I can say we should have been in the right position. But let's say Eriksen is in the right position. There's still a chance Odegaard's finish goes in because he's still going to have a shot and it could still go in. So you can be tighter to him, but there's not that much you can do. I will argue the Martinelli and Wan-Bissaka one because I don't think he cooked him at all. But I do think it was a good battle.
We can get that onto that one a little bit.
You're waffling with that one. But, yeah.
The saltiness has started. Razor, how did you feel about that goal and just the speed of the response? What did that tell you?
Like I said, I'm a bit more like calm watching the Arsenal nowadays. I think, especially because one thing that I've tried to do a lot over the past like couple of seasons is actually go down to the Arsenal. So like when you're at the Emirates, like, and you can actually hear it, like you can feel it, like you can see Odegaard, and like Odegaard is special. Like I'm always just like he's a special player because like when these moments happen, it's like we concede to United at home, everyone's head will drop, and the first thing he's always doing, and you always like Sky Sports and wherever they've started like looking for him now because they know he's going to do these at these key moments. Like whoever's cutting the images is looking for it. He's always on the byline, like whipping up the crowd, telling the younger players, telling the players that are a little bit less experienced, like this, that, and the other. So I feel very calm. I feel like it's like cruise control. And then when you got players like Martinelli in the side, who, again, like if you watch him and you're able to just watch Martinelli for 90 minutes, like week in, week out, he just gives it everything. He's always frustrated if someone doesn't see him open. He's always like looking for the 1-2. He's always making the run, even if it's unlikely. You feel like I felt confident. And when you see something like that happen, like that quickly, you're like, yes, good stuff. I'll be real. I was like yelling at, it wasn't even the TV. I was watching it on my phone in a completely legitimate way. And I was yelling at my phone in public, like, oh my God, he's open. He's so good at finding like little pockets of space like that. But he was wide open. I think that's the bit like I don't know if it was much of a debate, but we can debate if there was cookery going on the wing. Like if we're going to point like fault around like the United sort of dressing room for that goal, it's just like you can't leave a player of his caliber with a peg like that open in his favorite place, in like his favorite place to shoot, pretty much. Like it's his spot. It's like leaving Steph Curry free on the open on the 3-point line. It's like, what are you doing? Do you want to play this game? And knee slides,
you're right,
limbs,
works. You're right though, because that has become like the Odegaard special. Like just sitting on the edge of the box, waiting for a cut back or someone to pull it back deep, and then he swings at it with his left foot. So it's mad that no one, like not solely blaming Eriksen, but like someone else can cover, someone else can sit on that spot. I feel like if you've done any kind of prep for an Arsenal attacking move, especially one where there's spaces, you're going to know that Martinelli or Saka are going to cut it, basically attack to the byline and then try and cut it back for either someone, at the front post if it's Eddie or Jesus or something, or they're going to pull it back and Odegaard's going to be waiting to whip one in, or Partey last season or something similar.
And that's the one that your manager should try and kill you on. If you concede that, your manager should be on you. That's literally schoolboy. It's like they've said, number 12, he's lanky and he can hit it. So they're going to lob it up to him and then he's going to bring it down and try. And if you score the goal that your manager predicted, they're supposed to give you hell and rip you a new one. And Ten Hag does not seem to be, he's not ripping like that.
Yeah. I think that really sums it up very well. I think the way that Man United defended made it look like a really well worked goal. But it's really, there was no massive clangor like the first goal with Havertz kind of passing it straight to the other team. There was nothing like that in that kind of build-up play. But as you said, it's the things that are probably even more simple than that. Just picking up runners, being aware of what's around you, being aware of who's dangerous around you as well. So I think from that point, it became like a really interesting game, right? Obviously, we saw it was not necessarily dead. There wasn't much that happened up until half time. But we saw, obviously, straight after half time, we obviously saw kind of the first contentious decision. And we're going to get into a little bit of the referee in a little bit later. But I've got to get a little bit of comment here around the Havertz penalty claim. And obviously, we saw that it was overturned. It was deemed not to be a foul. You obviously had, from one side you had Wan-Bissaka and the other side you had Casemiro, with Havertz looking or seeming to be kind of through in on goal straight after that. So I think we'll start with the Arsenal fan, just to set the groundwork here, because you're the one that didn't get the decision. Razor, how did you feel when you saw that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts on that whole penalty claim?
For me, it's a pen. Obviously, I don't. The difference is now, I'm not and this is. Usually I would leave it out of the football chat, but this is a social media derby, so we get to talk about this stuff. I'm not like the United fans that are constantly crying every week on whatever social media platform. Anyone gets fouled, anyone gets a yellow card. If this was Casemiro, shut up. Arsenal, traditionally, we don't really get love from the referees like that. It's probably because Big Papa Wenger used to call them all kinds of names in his press conferences. They're not our fans. So when we don't get a decision, we don't get the decision. I might drop a couple 4-letter words and, scream at whatever device I'm watching it on. To me, I've seen pens. The thing that I would say is I've seen stuff given even this season in the Prem already that was about the same. So I'm kind of just okay, cool, must be an Arsenal thing. But other than that, it wasn't something that I got greatly chopped up about. I think sometimes there's a penalty thing. If there's a penalty shout and to you it's Stonewall, I think that's when you can be no, I'm not, what's going on here? I'm not with it. So yeah, it was one that I would have obviously given. I'm biased. I'm not supposed to be impartial. It's one that I think should have been given potentially based on the way that I feel the game's getting reffed. But I wasn't going to lose any sleep over it. I think even if we lost the game, I would have been but I wouldn't have been that's the point that lost us the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know, and you've got a different mindset. I think
of course you did.
One of the things I want to set straight just before we get into that, though, is I've seen a lot of chat around this where people are saying it's not a pen based off of what they think a pen is today. And that's a totally fine discussion to have, but I think that's a different discussion from what we're trying to have. And that is based off of the rules, and as Razor said, some of the pens you've seen given this year, is it a pen? And I think that's what we've got to try and get to as, people that are trying to talk about the game somewhat intelligently. It's not just about our feelings, because when I grew up, you could double foot someone, it wasn't a pen. So, from that point of view, Ant, how did you feel? Did you see it as a pen? I know that there was obviously a lot of United fans saying, no chance, no pen. How did you feel?
Were you afraid? Tell the truth.
To be honest, I thought initially there's no chance it's getting overturned when it was given. Because like Razor said, there have been other pens this season that have looked awfully similar to that one. Very soft, minimal contact, and just clumsy. The only argument I think you're pointing to, Johnson, why I might disagree was the comparison with the Rashford one, because I think there's slight differences in that pen, although I think they're both soft as hell. They're soft as toilet paper. But the Szoboszlai one, is an identical incident to your one, and that was given, right? I'm not just picking on the Scousers, right? Like, I hate them, but I'm not just saying they got away with it. I'm saying that if you go by that penalty decision and a few others that probably I think I've seen in other less high profile games, then I could understand why you would be pissed off. And second of all, it was given on field, and I swear the guidance is given for VAR if it's a clear and obvious mistake. And so where I agree with Razor, like, if it was given against me, I wouldn't be outraged and say that's an absolute clanger from the ref, because he gave it on the field, and I would expect VAR to just go with it. So I could understand the angst that being like, and Razor's jokes, he's saying we cry about the Casemiro. We definitely do cry about Casemiro since he's come. But Arsenal fans cry about the ref. If you watch AFTV and Ty and all them, man, every single week he has like a ref segment where he moans about refs. And so it's very much an Arsenal thing to moan about.
Don't
refs.
AFTV me. No. We're not going to do that.
We shouldn't go down that route.
Don't AFTV me.
You had me on the Casemiro thing, but you lost me when you said you guys don't really do it that much, because you're in that boat with us. We learned from you, man, about how to moan about refs. Yeah, but it should.
You've been paying them for decades. You haven't had to moan.
Exactly. Suddenly our checks are bouncing and we're not getting the decisions. I don't like it. So, but I will say, if it's given, the refs had a stinker to overturn it. Like, I'll agree on that premise, because you guys can look at Szoboszlai, you can look at other pens and say that's mad soft. You can even the Rashford one, just on a premise that is soft. You were right on all of that. And so to be honest, I thought when it went through, I actually thought we it up worse than the replays were showing, and I thought it was more of a bait pen than the replays made it look. And then after, when I'm seeing the replays, I'm saying I'm looking at the differences in like the other pens we've had before, and I can find a few with some, but then like the Szoboszlai one, like the other one, a couple of other ones this season, I can't say that they're not different. And we go back to the consistency issue and the stuff that I was crying about a few weeks ago when we lost to Spurs with the handball stuff. Like, I know it stinks, because then the same week or the next week you'll see an identical incident and a different decision. So at home, in a big game, 1-1, I would be livid if I was Arsenal. But I was relieved, just pure relief that it got overturned. But I feel like something booky was going on with the decision making, and the refs are not. To be honest, we argued about the other yellow cards and stuff that happened for the Saka challenge and the Lindelof challenge and stuff. But I think overall
we'll get onto those ones as well.
Overall, I thought he was doing all right, but then from that moment on, I think the ref that wasn't the right call. And I think if you make the decision on the pitch, that was not the one to be like, yeah, we're gonna rule it out because it's clear and obvious, because that clearly and obviously wasn't.
It was clearly and obviously not clear and obvious.
Yeah.
The most frustrating things with the refs, I think, like across the Premier, I don't know, like I saw a clip of Chunks talking about FPL the other day, and he was saying, like, I don't like FPL right now. It's making me do weird things. Like, why am I watching Tottenham and cheering when they score? And I completely get what he's saying, innit? Like, but the other thing that I've kind of gotten out of the Prem this season that I'm not really enjoying is I'm watching other teams, sometimes like Tottenham, sometimes like Liverpool, teams that I'm usually like, bleh, bleh. And I'm watching them and I'm thinking, like, you've actually been done in here. And it's just the inconsistencies from the refs. It's like, I don't know. If you compare it to like the NBA, for example, they'll do something, they'll change some rule, and everyone will be like, huh? What are you lot doing? What is this? This isn't basketball. But every single ref tries, at least, I would say, to ref that rule in the exact same way. Like, they might ref traveling and like personal fouls, like however they like to do it. But that rule, they know they're going to be under scrutiny for. So they're like, this season, we're refing this rule like this way, like by the book. And I feel like Prem refs, like the quality of refereeing in the Premiership is just, it's gone to the dogs, mate.
Yeah, I mean, that is something we can get onto later, because there was actually quite a lot of controversies in this game, and I think I'd like to talk about some of the suggestions that have been made about how we can change up and improve the refereeing in the league. But straight after that, or let's say about 10 minutes after that, we saw United's debut for Mr. Rasmus Højlund, and he came on obviously to replace Martial. You also brought on Maguire for an injured Martinez. So there's two things to go through there. We'll talk about Højlund first, just quickly. And how did you like the look of him? He looks like a pretty physical player, doesn't he?
Yeah, man, he's a unit. I had no idea he's quite wham. Like I thought he was like a bit of like a spindly kind of more quick, kind of agile player, but he just came on the pitch and started tussling with Gabriel straight away, and I was like, "What is this? I'm not used to like seeing a proper striker like engage with a defender. I haven't had one since Cavani, and he was like already ready to wrap up his career when he came to us. So I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed his little cameo. I think he did a lot of good things. I think it's unfair that we're going to put so much pressure on him now because we're all over the shop and we seem pretty impotent in attack if it wasn't for Rashford and now probably him. So I thought it was a really good cameo, man. And I think he caused your centre-backs issues, and I haven't seen Gabriel kind of get... It was a good tussle. It was 50-50. I'm not saying one way or the other, but there were moments where Højlund like kind of ragdolled him a bit and then the opposite happened, and it was just nice to see a striker actually give it to one of your... like Gabriel's probably your most physical defender, I would say. Saliba's like the Rolls Royce. He's not weak or anything, but he's more about like technical skill and kind of being a silky player. And Gabriel's a bit more of getting involved in the housery and being a bit more physical. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, man. I think it's a shame we could only see him for 25 minutes, but I think he had a big impact because I think when he came on the field, those little moments that we had in the second half, which there were a decent amount of, he was involved in all of them. So it was clear that he had an impact. But yeah, no, I'm happy with him, man. I think it was probably the only sub we brought on that I thought was decent.
Well, on that note,
let's talk about the others.
You're talking about, you only got to see him for 25 minutes. That's a shame. Someone who's going to get a lot more minutes on your pitch these days is a man that we call Slabhead.
Oh,
and
God.
How are you feeling now? And we'll get on to Johnny Evans at a certain point too. But how are you feeling to see the man that was so close to leaving to West Ham got you on your knees on this podcast begging him to leave? How are you feeling about the prospect of seeing him in a United shirt on the starting lineup, the starting team sheet? How are you feeling about that, mate?
I mean, what the fuck do you think, mate? Of course, it stinks. I'm livid. I'm depressed. I'm sad. I want to punch walls in front of me when I think about it because it's just terrible. Like, I can't think of another signing we've made in the last like 10, 15 years or something that has had such a negative impact on our team. And I know we talked, Razor was talking earlier about, not trying to pile on Havertz or whatever. But nah, I don't have that problem with Maguire. I'll pile on, no problem. He stinks. I pray every night that, suddenly Saudi are going to decide they want him and take him off our hands. Turkey, come on. Erdogan, talk to your teams, mate. Get him out of here. Anything. Just get him out. I'd rather play with Johnny Evans as a single centre-back for the rest of the season than have him on the team. I was even saying it yesterday in a group chat. Keep Martinez on with one leg. I don't care. He'll do better than Maguire did. Because you saw straight away the whole, like, even Onana, the way he was passing out and, like, just, I know we weren't really doing much, but at least the balls kept moving and recycling when Martinez was there with Lindelof. But as soon as Maguire comes on, extra touches, moving bare slow, every single angle. It looks like he's playing netball, when you got the 90-degree pivot legs. That's what was happening. And so yeah, it's gonna put us in the mud until we get our centre backs back. I'm not gonna moan about it. It just is what it is. We knew that if we had some injuries, and Varane is made out of paper mache, so we knew he was going to get injured. Martinez seems to be having problems with injuries now as well. Lindelof is one player. Luke Shaw's out. So, I mean, Maguire's the 5th or 6th choice centre-back, and because everyone's injured, he's going to play, and Evans is going to play, and we're going to be, in trouble. Unless we play, I don't know, Sheffield United, Burnley, Everton, Luton, the crappy teams, we're gonna have problems. So yeah, it's not looking good, mate.
If only there had been some opportunity to bolster your squad and get rid of players that weren't fit for business.
Who'd have thought, huh? Only we had a transfer window that lasted for 3 months where you could do these kind of dealings, it would have solved the whole problem, isn't it? But the stupid won't leave, so what do we do?
Harry Maguire is fast becoming one of my favourite United players ever. Like,
I know you guys all got posters of him on the wall. I know.
Absolutely.
When he rejected that transfer, you guys were punching the air. Everyone, not only you, every single rival was like beautiful. Flipping, what's his name? Rafael van der Vaart in Holland. He's going, see, told you, he's crap, and you stuck with him. Everyone's been saying it forever.
I'd love for him to put in a mag because he's been called up to the England squad. Somehow
he'll play well.
I want him to put in a crazy shift. I need him to put in a mad shift because he's just going to come back to United and not do that, and it's going to be even sweeter.
Yeah, exactly. It is going to be beautiful to see him play for England. And what is probably likely going to be a decent performance, because I don't think the games we've got coming up are too massively hard. So he's not going to have his work cut out, but I'm sure he'll make it look all right, and that will just rub salt in the wounds further, which is what we like to see on the Arsenal side of this podcast. So we'll quickly get in the interest of time. Obviously, Arsenal then brought on Vieira, Tomiyasu, and Gabby Jesus. We finally took off Havertz, thank God. Nketiah came off after what I thought was a decent performance, could have been a bit more clinical. But then we saw further controversy in the game. Anthony Taylor earning his money. I don't know if you can really call it earning his money, but he was doing something at least.
He's getting money from someone, and he's definitely earning the money he's getting from them.
Exactly. Him and Mike Dean together are getting paid by somebody out there, allegedly, just in case they try and come back at us. But obviously, we then saw further controversy with the Garnacho goal that was disallowed, with VAR putting him very, very slightly ahead of the man that they call Gabriel. Only needs one name. That's how good he is. To do the ballet, the kind of, I don't know, he's doing like the thriller dance, whatever he was doing to just get his body back a little bit. Now, Razor, for you first, there's been a lot of, in the group chats we've been hearing, it's the wrong angle, etc., etc. What did you think of it? Was it as clear cut as just being offside, or how did you see it?
The X.com pundits and analysis have been out in full force. They've already turned it into a GIF. You can see, and I love it, yeah, because Anthony, you mentioned it earlier, yeah, but you were like, like Saliba's our Rolls Royce defender, and Gabriel's a bit more of like a house, basically. No. Gabriel has been in the trenches, sharpening his football IQ, yeah, trying to channel his inner Sol Campbell and them, man.
Shameless.
Because no. I'm gonna send you the link to the post as well. You're gonna see it. He looks up, he sees my man on the ball. I don't even remember who played that final ball. It was a great ball. He sees him on the ball, waits, composed, and he looks, lets the man go, and then that's where the thriller body dance came from, because he was in motion. He wasn't just running towards the ball. He was playing man offside. Like on the D-pad on, I was gonna say FIFA, EA Sports FC, out soon. Them ones changing. When you're playing on the D-pad, you double tap up, play offside trap, and all your players like move in one go. That's what he did. Like, sometimes we overcomplicate it. That time it worked. If you got it wrong and you're watching him back on tape, bruv, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? You're going to be livid. But I feel like that was less controversial than the card decisions. Maybe even the back and forth in the build up to the second goal. Like, I genuinely feel like that was just, every time someone gets ruled offside, there's someone online being like, oh, you need to draw the lines like this. You haven't drawn the lines at the right angle. Shut up, man.
They sometimes don't even draw the lines for us at all. So you're lucky to even get the lines in the first place.
You got lines. Yeah.
But this is something that I think defenders don't get enough credit for, right? When offsides are given, when no one says, oh, great work from the defender there, they just like, oh, he got a bit lucky. So, and how about you? Because obviously there was two angles. Both of them weren't really square on. They were a little bit off centre for both. One of them obviously appeared to show Garnacho's, I think, shoulder just ahead of Gabriel. Did you see this as a clear-cut decision?
Well, to be honest, man, I thought he was offside before he ran through and scored. Like, from my eyes anyway, it just looked like he was ahead of the play. And when I saw the replays, it made it look a lot closer than I thought it was. But I'm not mad at that. And I don't understand the waffle about different angles and different frames and all that kind of stuff. Like in both the frames I've seen, he looks slightly offside. So, like, unless we're ruling offside as just like clearly offside or not offside, then slightly offside. This is not crazy decision. I don't think it was a contentious decision. I don't know why Ten Hag went and lost his head at the. Well, obviously he's pissed about the result, but like he could have got pissed, like Razor said, about some other things. Well, I think he did. He got pissed about all of them, but I think he should have left that one out because I think that one was just offside. Like it hurts because it was last minute. He finished it quite well.
Yeah, it was a good finish.
I feel like the play was decent. Højlund did a little flick onto Casemiro, who played the through ball. Like it was a decent, again, counter-attacking transition goal to score. So I think it was a good goal to watch, and it hurts that we didn't get it. But I'm not on that side of like, oh, it was show me different angles, conspiracy, whatever. I think it was just offside. But it just hurts that it was just ever so slightly offside. It would have hurt less if he was like, a good chunk offside. But Razor's right, man. Gabriel and the Shawsbury brute thing is just describing his style of play. I like him, and I think last season he was arguably your best centre back, if not very close to Saliba's as your best centre back. It wasn't a clear cut thing, and he did well on that play. And it was weird because Gary Neville did he's driving me nuts. I don't know why he does United games or any games on Sky these days, because he was like, oh, Gabriel's head, why has he done that with his head? He's playing him onside. And then he's like, the frame actually showed the position he put his head actually played him offside, and it was a good decision to do that. So it was great play. And you're right, no one gives credit to defenders when they play someone offside like that. It was good. Not for me, but it was good.
I'm glad to hear there's some sense somewhere. Thank goodness. So
I'll argue with you on the other stuff, but that one
yeah, well, there's a couple other contentious decisions to talk about, but it felt like at that time, that like straight after that got overturned, it felt like the game kind of exploded, right? And so obviously we saw 8 minutes go up on the board for extra time, which I'm loving. Again, we had this discussion in a previous podcast. If you waste time, if time is wasted through injuries and goals and whatever else, you got to add that time on. And so in the 90th plus 6th minute of that game, we saw the star boy himself put in a decent cross. I'll be honest with you. He was fluffing a couple of them. Martinelli was fluffing some of them, but straight to the back post. It seemed like you guys were doing kind of like a zonal marking thing. And so somehow Declan Rice controls it with his throat. And then he manages to absolutely smash it. And I believe it comes off of Johnny Evans, who's just doing kind of AEW, WCW with Gabriel for a minute. And it manages to get past Onana, who gets a decent hand on it at the near post. So the first thing I got to talk about is, fouls aside, or contentious fouls aside. Ray, how were you feeling when that went in?
Mate.
And was it limbs?
Mate, it was so I was watching it, and I'd gone onto a train platform. I was watching it on my phone on an overground train platform, and there were like 3 other people who could like hear the game and see that I was watching it, and they like creeping closer, and they'd get close and be like, oh, what's the score, mate? And then like, so it's like that. And then by the time we watched it, there were like 4 of us there, and I think like there was maybe 1 neutral, 2 United fans, and me, and I nearly dashed my phone on the tracks. Like I absolutely lost it. Like Declan Rice at the back post, they asked if he was worth it. Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Show me 100 mil. Come on. I nearly did a knee slide on concrete in shorts. I was, oh man, I was ecstatic. Like it was different. Like that's what we missed at certain points last season. Like we turned up and played games. Sometimes we were the better team. Sometimes we weren't the better team, but we didn't leave with points because we didn't have that someone that was just going to be rallying, that was able to be like strong and like carry it through, who knew what it was to kind of put the team on your back and carry on. And it's just,
you
seeing
can't
him
rely
there.
on Reece Nelson only to score your bangers. You got to have someone in your actual squad who gets in or in your starting lineup. And no offense to Reece Nelson,
I was going to say,
when he came on, he was
game winner. The game winner that he got last season was the game winner. That was the one. So yeah, but Declan is a different kind of player. Like obviously they play in different positions and that, and it was just mad. Yeah, I was very, very chuffed. I was talking a lot of crud considering I was outnumbered by United fans.
That's all right. When me and Ant went up to watch them against Fulham, it felt the same way. So who cares? Anyway, so Ant, obviously we'll talk a little bit about the goal, but I think the big thing that I want you to talk about really is, was it a foul on Jonny Evans? Did Gabriel foul Jonny Evans in the lead up to that play? Did it affect the goal? How do you see that one?
I don't know if it was a foul. I've seen McGiven, but I don't necessarily think that that's true. I don't think that's right. I feel like it obviously affected the play though, because he was, from what it looks like, he needed to get past Gabriel to go and close him down. But regardless, it's a poor goal to give away. Like, I don't think, again, I'm not buying the whole we got robbed because it was a foul thing. Like, regardless, you've got enough men on the field in the box, big units like Slabhead, who needs to go and block the ball. But he didn't do that. And then if you've, there's blame that can go round, mostly to Evans and Slabhead at the back post. There's two of them. There's two players at the back post. How Declan Rice is free, and there was no one near him. So as soon as the ball got whipped in, and you could see it from a mile away that Rice had pulled off at the back post, and there was no one close to him. So I was bricks, because I felt the dread that you guys would score in the last few minutes, because that's the kind of team we are. That you guys at home have done that to quite a few teams, including us last season. So I wasn't shocked to see it go in. But I think Onana also could do a bit better, though. I'm not going to clatter him like it was impossible for him, like it was an easy save, because Rice is quite close. It's at his near post. He whacked it, to be fair. There's a slight deflection, but I don't buy into minor deflections as a cop-out for goalies. I think goalies, if it's a minor deflection, a goalie, if his reactions are quick enough, should still be able to do better than Onana did. But it's not a clanger. It's not a De Gea level clanger or anything, so I'm not hammering him. But yeah, man, it was. I like Declan Rice, so even though it stung that it was against us, there could have been a few other players that I would have been cursing at the screen if they scored for you, man. But it wouldn't have been Declan Rice, because I think he's going to get enough shit for being a 105 million player. You guys don't spend that kind of money, so he's got all eyes on him, and I think he's going to be good, man. I think if there ever was a £100 million player that was a certainty to be good, Decky Rice is up there. So, yeah, it was a bittersweet one, because I do like Declan Rice, and it's just Evans and Maguire back post, Chuckle Brothers. What do you expect? I wasn't shocked. I wasn't shocked at all.
I feel like you guys have been a bit harsh to man like Onana. I feel like he's actually been exactly what United said that they needed in terms of a keeper, and obviously you don't get a direct trade. You can't just add on being able to play the ball confidently to a De Gea type build. So there are bits that have come down in terms of that, and having Maguire and Evans in front of a keeper that is De Gea is one of the best shot stoppers in the world. That's not really ever been his issue, has it? He makes big mistakes and he's a bit squiffy on the ball, or at least he was towards the end of his season, the end of his time at United. You've got someone who is, not as accomplished in those regards potentially, but is much, much, much better on the ball. And then what do? You give him two centre-backs that are probably not going to cover him as closely, and also are not as good at getting the ball played out to them.
Yeah, you're right, though. You're right.
Yeah, you saw in the first half, right? He was controlling the game for you. It got to the point that Gary Neville literally said, "Put Casemiro in goal and let Onana go centre mid." It got to those levels, and I think you had more passes in your half in the first 30 minutes of the game than you've had in any other game, and it was almost entirely just him playing balls around, trying to find the right man, and you guys just patiently playing. But obviously, as Razor said, you can't just take De Gea and say, okay, here you go. You can also play like Edison on the ball. So you're obviously going to have to trade off certain things. I do agree, though, he probably could have done a little bit better. But had he saved that, we'd be talking about Onana right now as man of the match.
No, I don't know about man of the match, but it would have been a class save if he had saved it. But of course, I don't agree with anything Razor's saying. You're right, man. Like, I would still have Onana. I'm not. This is not like a get David De Gea back plea. Like, I'm glad man's not in our team.
Just
I'm
checking.
very, very happy about that. And Onana isn't as good of a shot stopper as prime De Gea. I will argue that he is a better shot stopper than the recent dickhead we've had in goal for us the last couple of years. So I'm fine with it. And you're right. If he did save it, it would have been a class save because of the proximity and stuff and a few different things. But, like, if it goes roof of the net or in the stanchion or something like that, you go, okay, he's got no chance. But because it was quite close, it was within his wingspan, he got a hand on it, you feel like he could potentially have saved it. But it's not a clanger. And I'm very, very happy with Onana. I'm not calling De Gea back anytime soon.
Do you know who I would back to save something like that though? Hollywood Rambo.
No chance. No.
So the thing is, he'd save that and then he'd let an easier one in, which is
that's Rambo.
The problem.
That's Aaron Ramsdale, and like I just said, you've got to know the players you've got, and you've got to accept like they're great at doing this stuff, and they need to improve those bits of their game. I hope. I agree.
I agree with you. I think Ramsdale wouldn't have saved that though, because I do think there's similarities between Onana and Ramsdale, and in that they're very good shot stoppers. But like what you're talking about, trading like De Gea and then just getting the bolt on with amazing sweeping and great with your feet. That goalie you're describing is basically Alisson, and there's only Neuer in his prime. There's only a few goalies that have been able to do all of those things. So you've got to trade off a bit, and I feel like you do trade off a bit with Ramsdale in terms of his shot stopping has improved for sure. But I would like when I was seeing people talk crap about him not being good with his feet. It's rubbish. He's good with his feet. He's a good sweeper, and he's a good shot stopper, so it's fine. I think Onana's in that mold, similar, maybe slightly better with the ball at his feet because that's his probably standout skill, but it's close and they're similar.
He's just a lanky holding midfielder. Onana's just a lanky holding midfielder. He's not fooling me. He's
a holding midfielder with gloves on, apparently.
Yeah.
But let's get into obviously the goal that I think came in like 90+9, I believe it was. Obviously, you saw that the game had to open up even further than that, right? You as Man United, you guys are not just going to take a 2-1 loss, right? Especially at the Emirates, a team that I think everyone knows has a very, very strong rivalry. And so we saw, obviously, a beautiful bit of play. We saw a late break that fell straight to Fabio Vieira, who I think he's got his fair share of hate this year so far and a little bit last year as well. He plays a decent ball, which everyone can say is easy, but we saw last year Martinelli mess one of those up in a really critical moment. So he plays a beautiful goal to Gabby, who just keeps driving forward. At a certain point, I start to think, where is he going? He's going really, really deep onto his left foot, and I start to worry a little bit that he's going to completely fluff it. But he sends us all, Dallo included, to the shops. Everyone's eyes went left like a tennis match. And then they came back right straight afterwards as he chops it back the other way, puts it beautifully past Onana. There's nothing he can do about that. And the game is over. At that point, I mean, Antony, you must have already been feeling like the game was pretty much over at that point. But how did that make you feel to see just that added goal, that added kind of knife wound into you?
Man turned into Peter Drury then describing that goal. That was class. It was painful because 2-1 was enough, man. The second goal was enough. It was like I knew it. We're crumblers, we're bottlers, fucking shit houses, hate them, wanting to turn it off. And then when you see Johnny Evans and all these guys hoofing balls in, I was just like, it's just a matter of time before. I'm begging for the final whistle because I knew what's coming. But I didn't see I will argue that Jesus moment was probably the best piece of skill in that match. And the best moment of technical skill that we saw in that match. Beyond Gabriel's offside call, which I think was a good one. But I think I've seen some people talk about the game and say it was like a poor advert for the Premier League. I didn't think so. I thought it was an entertaining game. Obviously, it wasn't, City against prime Barcelona or something like that. There were mistakes. But I think that Jesus moment was the real classy moment in the whole game because, like you said, John, he sent everyone to the shops. I mean, not as bad as Delo, but he sent the rest of us also because we didn't see the chop come in, and then he packed the nana out. So it was just it was an extra stab wound when I was already dead on the ground. Basically, it was a wrap for me. I didn't even watch I turned my Sky Go thing off straight away and went back to my day.
Whereas I think, Razor, you probably would have had a slightly different reaction. I think that Sky Go was probably on for another 45 minutes, wasn't it?
Limbs in the Emirates, in the pub, on the train, at the train station, everywhere. Uber drivers doing up limbs in the front row, listening in the front seat. Sorry, listening to 5 Live, like limbs. I feel like anyone who says that that's like a poor advert for the Prem is crazy. That's not even the Prem. That's Barclays. Like that's heritage. Like that's Arsenal United. Like with like stoppage time winners. Like the only thing that like that's changed is it's gone from Fergie time to Teta time. Do you know what I mean? Like that's it. Like this is good stuff. Even if it went against us, I would be able to. I think hopefully maybe in a couple of days I'd be able to be like, this was good stuff. I think for that third goal, everyone's talking about Gabby and like Gabby is. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I've become spoiled. I wasn't too impressed by Gabby doing that. Like I was like, I was worried that when he did the chop and brought it back, I was worried he was gonna miss it or like play it straight at Onana. That's what my biggest fear was. Because him sending Dalot to the shops, yeah. If you watch Arsenal all the time, like, and Gabriel Jesus is like, he's so creative. Like he's got a great amount of like sort of ball control in that, but he's so creative and he's got a turn of pace. So in that space, again, like I spoke before when we were analysing the first goal and talking about like the last person you want to pass the ball to there, Kai, is Eriksen, because if someone needs to whip it forward into space, that's the guy that's going to make that pass perfect. The pass is so difficult. So Gabby Hayes is like the perfect guy there. Fabio Vieira really, really, really impressed me. I don't know if like I've seen enough people sort of talking about that. I don't know if we watched the game together, Johns, that when he had just like come to Arsenal and we were just like, this guy looks a bit flimsy. He looks a bit lightweight. He doesn't look like he can handle like Premiership like level physicality and aggression. And I think he's been putting in work and listening and like playing to his strengths as well. He's a lot more like, whenever I see him come on now, he looks a little bit calmer. And that ball was just sublime. It's like he just played it into the perfect place. I feel bad for Dalot a little bit because he did get sent to the shops for like, inflation price Freddos and milk. But what are you gonna do? You're obviously, as a defender, if you don't try and stick on him there,
you've got to.
If you don't try and stick on him there, the only thing that he could have done that I probably would have done if I was that centre back is like kick the shit out of man and giving away a penalty. And then
I would have just kept him on his left foot. Like there was no need to even jump in because Gabby on his left foot, he probably would put it straight at Onana. Right? Like you kind of summed it up beautifully.
He always needed to put on his right though.
Yeah, but I mean like the whole thing about Gabby is that he does really, really well in build up to goals and then he just sometimes doesn't connect with the ball properly. You know the way that Luis Suarez used to shin the ball and then somehow it go top corner or whatever else like that. It feels like with Gabby, he's just got like the opposite luck. He'll shin it or like double hit it and it will somehow just go completely left. But he does such a good job of build up play and really tussling with defenders and getting into good positions. So, I mean, if it was me as Dalot, and I can't really talk too much, obviously Dalot's significantly, he's achieved way more than me. But I would have just kept him on his left foot. But I think at that point, he had sprinted like the whole way back from the pitch. He was done with it. You could see him even after he started sliding. He just put his head on the ground. He was like, I'm done with this now.
It's too much to ask for. I mean, that is the right thing to do. But if you've had your work cut out trying to mark Saka for 101 plus minutes, and everyone knows or thinks the threat's going to come down that side. I saw Theo Walcott talking about, Dallow's got long day, Saka's going to chew him up. I think a lot of people thought that was potentially going to happen. Like, he's on his last legs, he's having to track for Maguire and Evans. Like, you are just going to go for your senses are heightened. You're going to go for the most like desperate thing you can do to try and close him down and stop the ball. So in that case, if it was in the 10th minute, I'd be livid. But because it's the 101st minute, he's tracking back and he's probably exhausted from trying to mark Saka the whole game and do a decent job. Like, he gets sent to the shops and he's just got to hold
I
it.
back that.
Yeah.
I back that.
But that gets onto an interesting point, because I do want to get onto this, and this is a specific question for you, Razor. Saka did not have the best game, right? Generally speaking, he did end up getting an assist. I've got him on my FPL team. He did get me some points, but he did get a yellow card, which kind of annoyed me a little bit. But what did you think of him? What do you think? Was it just Dalot defending well? Was it the fact that Dalot is a right-footed player, and that on the left-hand side, obviously Saka's going to be trying to cut, or on the right-hand side, he's going to be trying to cut onto his left? He just didn't look like the Saka that we've come to love so much over last season, where he was just kind of carrying on us on our back. Whereas more like Martinelli was really the one offering most of the threat. So I wanted to ask you, Razor, do you think it was a poor performance from Saka, or do you just think that it was Dalot and the setup of Man United's defence that just kind of didn't give him that many opportunities? What do you think it's been so far?
I think, one, it's what Ant just said about like Dalot in the 90th minute, like, or in the 100th minute. It's a bit that, but like over a longer stretch of times, like we've kind of talked. I think everyone's kind of acknowledged the fact that Saka's been on an incredible run for someone of his age. He's played like so many consecutive games. He's always involved in like different bits and pieces. Like he's not someone that wants to sit out games. You can see that from the way that he interacts with like the manager and stuff, and you can see that like Arteta's got a lot of faith in him in terms of like he is the player that will stay on for the 90 when like a Martinelli goes off, or like a Trossard will come on and off, or a Gabby Jesus will come on and off. And you know, he's not going to turn up every week and it's going to be like a crazy thing. And in terms of like, did he have a good game? Did he have a poor game? I think like over the whole game, you have to look at the fact that like, you know, he's got an assist. He's engaged in like a key battle. And, you know, we talked about, I think we talked about like Eriksen and the fact that Odegaard was left in the Odegaard zone free. And in the run up to a game, you're supposed to be like, you know, professional players. You're meant to be looking at these players that you're going to be coming up against the opposition and being like, right, he does this really well, and he does that really well. And like Saka's our star boy. He's if you're going to be like, right, where is play going to come through? You're going to assume that it's going to come through Bukayo. So them having a positional player that is, you know, experienced enough and did a decent job of like keeping him more quiet than he's been able to be against other teams, I wouldn't necessarily say that it was like a bad game per se. I think it's a sign of our squad and our team like growing a bit now that like, you know, we don't need to be that reliant on him in order to still win games like that.
Yeah, more weapons, right?
There was a point in time where if you keep Saka that quiet in a game like that, we're not getting anything. We're not coming away with nothing. And I think it's, you know, I love seeing him score. I love seeing him make assists and stuff, but it's good that he is like able to be that trooper sometimes and other people are able to take it on. Because they will look at him and they will be like trying to, you know, target him and like keep him closed down.
We've seen with other great players when certain teams come up against them, they just do get marked out of the game. They've always got two men on them. I did see that happen a decent amount with Saka yesterday. Obviously, they were always trying to get back and defend him. But in the interest of time, we're going to move on a little bit here because obviously we did have a very important, I guess, milestone in football that just passed in the English Premier League. And obviously that's the transfer window. You know, Harry Redknapp hanging out of his window type of vibes. And we did see some action. Obviously, for Arsenal, it was more getting people out. But I wanted to get a very, very quick comment from Antony and from you, Razor, on just some of those outgoings and ingoings. So for United, Ant, you've obviously got Amrabat on loan now with an option to buy. I think it's about 8 million now for the loan. And then I think you've got another additional 20-ish million to pay if you want to buy him at the end of that. And then we saw, obviously, Reguilon, beautiful to see him play for your club, on loan as well, but also with that option to cancel, I believe, which was pretty important to you based off of some of the injuries you've got now. Just a quick comment. Are you happy with what happened? Is that what you wanted? Is that the best way that transfer window kind of last day could have happened?
No, because we should have had a centre-back and not relying on Johnny Evans. We should have got rid of Maguire, McTominay, now off the back of all this Sancho drama, maybe Sancho as well. I don't know. I think Amrabat. I'm happy on the Amrabat signing because I think we needed a midfielder of that mold to go in there and help Casemiro. And I think that's always been on the cards or something that Ten Hag's wanted. So on that signing, I'm happy with. Reguilon one, whatever, because it's just a backup whilst Shaw and Malacia are both out for 2-3 months or whatever. So unless Reguilon becomes the second coming of Roberto Carlos, I don't see him staying at United post January. So I'm calm with that. So it's more the outgoings that frustrate me, or the fact that we were just selling academy players or whatever and not getting rid of an £80 pile of shit in our defence and a £40 million mayonnaise, McSauce, whatever Scottish midfielder and we should have got rid of as well. And the Sancho stuff now makes me think, honestly, and I love Jaden, and I said it before in the podcast before, I would persist with him for as long as humanly possible to try and see what he can do. But at this point, I'd just say get rid of him. So if this rumbling stuff is going on, because we haven't touched on that, the Ten Hag and Jaden beef or whatever might be happening, I would have chucked him on his ass as well and get him out. Because, yeah, I feel like United every season are just toxic central. And last season we just had toxic stuff going on everywhere. Season before with what's his name, the German Professor Don that we had for a few months, toxic everywhere. And now, with Ten Hag, it looks like this season is going to be toxic as well. So, if I'd have known that Jaden's out here writing little 2-paragraph things on his iPhone notes, I would have chucked him as well. So no, not happy, mate. Stinky window, stinky deadline day.
All right, that was beautiful. We got to clip that one up. So Razor, for you,
you're welcome.
We've obviously got all completely outgoings, right? So we've got Balogun. Sad to see him go, but at least we've got a little bit of money for him. It looks like it's going to be somewhere between 25-30 million. To Monaco, we've got Holding. Thank you, God, going out to Crystal Palace for £1 million. And then you've got Tavares going out on loan to Nottingham Forest. We are getting paid for it at least, which is decent. And then Sambi Lokonga going on loan out to Luton. What do you think about that? Just the outgoings, but then did you want anybody else? There's been some rumblings around Timber replacements, stuff like that. How are you feeling on this deadline day and as it's passed?
Overall, outgoing wise, sad about Balogun. I think, most Arsenal fans are a little bit sad. Feel like could have been, something special. I think he just has very big desires and he's right to. He just had a crazy season in France. And he wants to start for the US team, so he needs to be the main man. So wish him the best of luck. Wish we could have got a little bit more money for him, if I'm honest. Holding going to Crystal Palace. Holdini, good night, my sweet prince. I miss you already. Not in terms of you on the pitch, just you as a great all-round geezer, because he's a proper nice guy.
Hairline.
Yeah. He's a proper nice guy. I actually did some content with him at work, and he is literally the nicest guy on the planet. But, to be honest, Holding in the low block, it just worried me when he was starting and we were trying to bomb down the wing and play out from the back with him. But, you know what I mean?
It's just the rashness of some of the decisions he made. He likes to give away a pen every now and then.
Yeah.
A bit too much holding, a bit more marking would have been better.
Tavares and Sambi, loan deals, I think it's good to get them out. I'm hoping Sambi's still going to come into a place where he can feature in what we've got going on. It's not really looking like that, but I would like that. He's young. He looked like a good player, and he's done this is what can be his second loan stint now, isn't it? So hopefully he gets some good regular Prem experience, and he's able to bring something back. And players have done that before.
It didn't look like he got a lot of time at Crystal Palace, really, did he? It wasn't a great situation to go in because I think it's immediately after Vieira got sacked, didn't he? So didn't get very much time there, and obviously the Crystal Palace midfield has been blowing up with old Eze going crazy. So, I mean, I agree with you there. I think I would like to have got more money for Balogun, just off of the fact that I know he's American now, but he's supposed to be an English centre forward. You'd expect him to get some more money. Obviously, now the problem is that no one else outside of the Premier League, and Saudi Arabia not included, actually has enough money to spend on players, really. And so they don't value players the same way that we do. And obviously that's kind of, I guess, why he went for that amount of money. I do hope that Arsenal maybe have a buyback in there or something. We pull a City and have some sort of buyback, but I doubt that would have been the case. So, I mean, generally speaking, I wanted to get onto this one very quickly. As an Arsenal fan, Razor, from this transfer window's incomings for Man United, is there anyone you would take? So, Mount, Onana, any of the signings that they've made this season, Amrabat even. Are there any of those players that you think, actually, you know what, I wouldn't mind them at Arsenal?
I mean, Onana's like not a bad keeper shout. But we've signed Raya in it, like in terms of competition for Ramsdale, and I feel like that's a good shout. Like not letting him get complacent, keeping him hungry and whatnot. Also giving us a bit of coverage because I don't think Matty Turner was just. It sounds deep, but I don't think he was just up to the quality. Like he was just below the quality that he needed to be our understudy. I think Mason Mount, like similar to what I said about Kai Havertz, and I stand by it. Like I think he's a quality player who hasn't been given the opportunity to show how quality he can be because of the system that he was forced to play in. So yeah, obviously sucks for him because he's gone to a system that can barely be called a system and doesn't really work either. So he's gone from out of the frying pan into the fire. But yeah, like they're both like anywhere else, even like in United's team, like if United had more organization and less kind of chaos going on, and I know you said what you said about like Jaden and like slinging him out, but there has to be said something about United because like serious players that are like something, they're not like maybe they will, maybe they won't. Like Jaden Sancho, he's meant to be on the Jude Bellingham thing, like player of the month in La Liga, getting a bag of goals for Madrid, ripping it up. Like he's meant to be one of them guys, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And them guys come to United and they often end up being like, Di Maria's like, thank you for saving me from hell. Zlatan's like, United's not all it's cracked up to be. Like there has to be something ethos-wise that you guys aren't getting right with these players when they come and there's a big price tag and a big expectation. And it can't always be the players. There's got to be something that's going on there.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But what do I know?
Yeah, no, but I agree with you. I definitely think that Man United have maybe a tendency now to make very promising players look bad.
Just worse than bad.
Yeah, like look like they should be out of a job type of thing. And I think that I agree with you. It can't all be down to the individuals, right? Like we can't just blame this player, this player, this player. There's got to be some.
But guys, I would argue that the players have never been held accountable at United for the poor performances. Our managers have always been the ones who get fired, and then you get the same crop of crap players given to the next manager. The example we made earlier, if the manager had what he wanted, Maguire, McTominay, clearly Sancho wouldn't be there. So I would agree that it's toxic central, and I think as a business it's run like shit. But the actual management side of it, for the first time in a little while, like, don't get me wrong, Ten Hag's not got everything right. He was waffling yesterday, and he's had some clangers this season in terms of his tactics or whatever. But last season, it looked like he was getting rid of the people that weren't buying in, and he was trying to actually create a bit of an ethos. And here's the thing. I love Sancho, and he was definitely cooking at Dortmund. So that's the reason why I'm like, all right, be honest, guys. When you saw him on the pitch, was he doing well? He wasn't Antony levels, but he wasn't doing well enough for people are cussing us 70 million or whatever. It's crazy. Like, he wasn't the Sancho that we saw at Dortmund. And respectfully, that's even during the Ten Hag, when Ten Hag's sending him to the mountains, trying to be nice to him and, help him with the issues he's going through. He's still not playing well.
So that's a management problem. That's a management issue. Like,
I don't necessarily think so, bro.
He's the player you wanted, and he's not playing well. Like, you can either bite the bullet, and we were talking about how Mikel needs to do this a bit more often, but like when he does it, he does it. Pepe's been in Siberia. He's not training with the squad. Nobody cares if Pepe writes, actually this weekend I did not get. Nobody cares because he's not about. He's out.
Yeah, and you need to decide. Pepe's a good example because Mikel didn't sign him, innit? It was Emery who signed Pepe. Am I right? I think it was Emery, right? Who signed Pepe? I think Emery signed Pepe.
He might have been one of the last ones.
Yeah, I think he was the back end.
Emery signings.
He was the back end, right? And I would argue it's similar with Sancho. Ten Hag didn't sign him. He was an Ollie signing. So
but doesn't he still have?
We don't know if he wants. No, he does. And I think last season was him trying to make it work, and it didn't work. And therefore, this season, look, I'm not even saying, right, I think Antony stunk it up for every single minute, basically, of his
I was
career.
waiting for you to finish so I could say the winger that he did want and did get is also playing like dog poo on a hot day.
I know, but we're talking slightly different shades of same colours of shit here. Like, Sancho, when he's played for us, he's not been
Sancho
majority
was really
better.
good at the back end, at the front of last season. Do you not remember some of the goals he was scoring? Like, Sancho was really good at the beginning of last season. I don't know what happened after that, but
yeah, but you see what you're saying is like 2 or 3 games, and I agree. Like Liverpool game, he was cooking at home. He had a few games at the beginning of last season where he looked, and I was like, thank God he's going to turn it around, and we're going to get the player that we saw at Dortmund, right? And he's bouncing back from everything that's been going on. But his performances afterwards, you can't argue that they were anywhere near that level. He had flashes here and there off the bench, but overall he's been mad disappointing. And had very stinky games.
Yeah, but he hasn't been doing like 360 turns on the ball and then kicking it.
No, I agree, man. I agree. He's not like, that's my argument for Antony. He does all this flashy stuff for no reason and still stinks it up, right? So it looks even worse. Sancho is basically doing all the simple stuff and then still doing stinky stuff at the end for the majority of his time. Like 95% of the time at United, he's done bad. So,
and do you think Pepe was a better signing than either or both of them?
Oh God!
Answer the question.
I think they're all in the same group. They all stink.
Nah, that's not what the question was, bro. Answer the question.
No, but I think ultimately Antony's going to stay for long.
Out of the three of them, do you actually believe they're equally stinky?
Do you mean right now?
I think Pepe had a couple of days for us. No, in general.
We're just talking about Sancho's had a couple of days, but overall he's still stunk it up. So I think eventually Antony will be the worst signing of them all because he's going to play the rest of this season. He might even play next season. And you give him more time, he's going to keep playing the same way. So unless he turns it around big time, he's going to be the worst signing. He costs more than both of them. His output, I don't think, is going to pass all of them. And if they do, it will be incremental. So he'll end up being the worst one. At this moment, they're literally all terrible. And I'm picking it out will be like 1% better. Like, I don't care about that. They all stink. He's your one, so you're going to get flack for it, and we're going to take it for Antony and Sancho. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
It's game's a game.
I'm okay with it. With it. They called us mad when we bought Ben White for the price that we got Ben White for. They called us mad when we paid what we paid for Rambo. Like 1 out of 3.
Good signings, man. And he was Emery's, so I'm not even going to put that on Arteta.
To be fair, because he's put some stinkers in recently.
Indeed.
Yeah,
indeed.
All right. Anyway, lads, let's get on to a very special segment that we've got now. It's been great talking about Man United and Arsenal. I do just want to remind everyone that this is only the first time that we play each other, and Arsenal will have to go to Old Trafford at some point. And you never know, Ten Hag, old Karen Hag, might have sorted everything out by that time. Who knows? So it's gonna be interesting. There's still a lot to play for. It's still very early on in the season, but let's get into a special segment that I've got now. We're going to try it out. I know it's a very popular segment on YouTube these days, but we're going to try it out. And that is a head-to-head quiz between the Arsenal and the Man United fans here. So I'm going to give you 5 questions. Essentially, the way that it goes is career path, right? So I'm going to give you 5 questions, 5 players that are related to either Arsenal or Man United in the present or in the past.
Okay.
And each of you is going to be able to buzz in, right? So you can use any noise you want, beep, boop, whatever you want. And essentially what happens is if you get that question, if you get it wrong, the other player gets to listen to the whole career path and then make a guess. Right. From there, it's a free-for-all, right? If both of you get it wrong, it's a free-for-all. Whoever can say it fast, you don't have to buzz in anymore. Just go crazy and say names. All right? So we're going to do 5 questions. The first one, I'm going to say the first team that he played for, Brighton and Hove Albion, Newport County on loan, Peterborough on loan, Leeds United on loan.
Ben White.
Ding. He didn't buzz.
Ding.
So I'm going to have to stick to the rules here, Ant. You've got to say ding dong or something, mate. Razor.
Ridiculous. I said it
is
without
it Ben White?
any contention.
It is ding dong. It is. And come on, man.
Oh, bias. Arsenal bias. We need to have get Mum in. Let Mum be the
about.
As we
just
said when we were talking about like the penalty shouts, it's the way that the game is being ref. The laws are there.
I'm Antony
right,
Taylor,
Mike.
apparently. I just got to shave all my head and just become an absolute car, and then I'll do it. There we go. All right, second one. There you go. All right, second one. Espanyol, Villarreal, Man United, Marseille on loan.
Bing bong, Eric Bailly.
Correct.
I had no idea.
He's back at United. Did anyone know that you actually? He's
sadly,
back at United.
I was actually thinking, is he still at United? Does he play?
Why are you not playing him over Maguire and Johnny Evans? Is he that bad?
He's not part of the plans, apparently. That's another thing I'll blame Ten Hag. He's
whatever plans those are. Yeah, bin.
Back of the napkin plans out here.
Bin.
All right. Okay, this one's an interesting one. First club, Danubio. Second club, US Palermo. Napoli on loan. Napoli transfer. PSG.
Ding.
I'm gonna have to have an answer from you there, mate. That was a ding.
You binged the bomb.
You've got to guess someone. So just to be clear, Danubio, Palermo, Napoli on loan, Napoli, PSG. You got 5 seconds, mate.
PSG. That threw me. No, I'm gone. I'm done.
All right, Anthony, you get to hear all of it now, and I think you're going to get this one, mate.
And then he said PSG.
So PSG, Man United, Valencia, Boca Juniors, where he currently plays. Do you want to hear those all over again, or are you good to guess?
Nah, I've got it. It's Cavani.
Correct.
I thought these had to be current players, so I was going to make.
No, I said present or past. I'm going to be very Anthony Taylor-ish. We can bar it if you want.
It's fine.
All right, it's 2-1. It's 2-1. It's still all to play here.
It's really 3.
All right, first team. No, we're not doing that, mate. That's the Man United way of thinking about things, which is wrong.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
FC Jugend, FC Cologne, I don't know how you say it. Bayern Munich, back to FC Cologne or Cologne, Arsenal, Inter on loan, Galatasaray transfer, Vissel Kobe, Antalyaspor, and to his current club, Gornik Zabrski. I'll read it out one more time.
This player stinks.
FC Jugend, FC Cologne, Bayern Munich.
That's mad.
FC Cologne again, Arsenal, Inter on loan from Arsenal, full transfer to Galatasaray. Then
all right,
Vissel
bing
Kobe.
bong. Bing bong. Lucas Podolski.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That is a hard one. He still plays today, by the way, in the Polish first tier. Apparently, he's playing in the Polish leagues, banging it out.
What a player, man! Like Podolski,
mate. When I saw that career path, I nearly fell off my chair. He's got 10 clubs, all right, and he's still playing now.
Bro, I was like Bayern Munich. Who like? I was like, what?
Well, that's the weird one. I didn't know that he went back to
that's what threw me.
Cologne before he came to Arsenal. I thought he came straight from Bayern, but apparently that's what it says. That's what transfer mark says.
It was the FC Jugend part at the beginning or whatever.
FC Jugend, yeah. All right, last one.
Is it 3-1?
Well, it is.
5-1.
Do you want
No, yeah, but
do you want to end it here, and you can have a 3-1 of your own?
No, we're not doing that. No. All right,
I'll get a 4-1 and then we win.
EC Vitoria, Benfica on loan, Benfica
Ding.
full transfer. Correct. Yeah.
Fabio.
Doesn't matter how you end that one. No. All right. So Benfica to Chelsea, Chelsea to PSG, PSG back to Chelsea, Arsenal, and now Flamengo.
All right. Bing bong. Is that David Luiz?
It is.
It is.
Fucking hell. I made these too easy for that, Belland.
I'll be real. Like my ADHD was just going off. Like when I was like 2 in, I was like, guess now, guess now, and I was just like, yeah, I'm actually like for the amount of football I watch, I'm really bad at these. So I'm glad that I got one.
I mean, you got the. I made some of them supposed to be like gettable, but the Edinson Cavani one, the Podolski one, and the David Luiz, I would not have got those. So that's fair. We'll let Antony have the.
I did actually know the Ben White one, so I'm glad that I got that by following the rules.
The real victory.
There you go.
The real victory.
The real victory of this little terrible quiz that I make. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here. Just one last question, and that is a question that we ask every guest that comes on this pod. As you can see, Ray, we are both Asian of some kind. And so...
No fucking way. No way.
Our question to old Razor Ruddock is, who is your favourite Asian, or specifically East Asian, hopefully, or Southeast Asian, player of all time? It can be current now, or it can be from the past. Who is your favourite East Asian player of all time, mate?
I reckon my answer is probably going to shock you.
It's not Tomoyasu, is it?
It is not. No, that's not shocking as well, is it?
We're good.
It's probably Park Ji-sung.
Ray, get on there.
Baller.
Straight on the wall.
Top, like, baller. Like, I used to, like, try and play like him. Like, baller. Like, serious baller.
Energy.
There is a player, a Korean lad who plays on the op block, and he's also very good at football too. That's all I can muster. I need him to do what his old pal did and go to Germany or something, so I can say nice stuff about him. Harry Kane, excellent striker. Yeah, but that other lad, doing all right stuff in that place that's more known for Beyonce gigs than football.
Yeah, big old Angie ball out here.
They look too good. It's not making me happy. I don't feel happy about that at all.
This sounds harsh, but let's hope like Son comes back from international duty really tired or something. I don't know, Madison or something. Let's just hope someone gets like a little knock. I don't know.
You've gone from hopefully East Asian or Southeast Asian solidarity, representing awareness. In 5 minutes, I hope he gets a knock. I hope he's
mate. Priorities. Arsenal over everything, baby.
The biggest Asian footballer on the planet. You're like, down with him. Boo, boo.
Mate, the biggest Asian is Kyogo for Celtic. I was watching the Old Firm derby and he scored their goal. He's a baller as well. Anyway, that's deflection on my part. Apologies. Yeah, exactly. Son's great. Just I wish he played for a better team.
Matoma.
Matoma.
I really like
there,
Matoma.
but he got me 0 points this week in FPL, so I'm a bit miffed at him. All right. Anyway, let's wrap it up there. Obviously, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, we say this every week, but first of all, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you can. Like the video, share it if you want to. We're obviously going to have clips out there too on Instagram as well. So if you want to share those as well, there's going to be some great ones of Antony and Razor this week. And then obviously for anybody that's listening on Spotify or Apple or any other podcasting platform, please give us a follow and a 5-star review if you can. The biggest thing though is we don't want to be in an echo chamber all the time. So if you've got any comments, if you disagree with anything we said, obviously we talked about some controversies today. Please do let us know in the comments below. Feel free to comment on our Instagram pages with any comments that you had. We obviously had a predictions this week, which I got right. Come on. But yeah, the engagement, the comments, it would be lovely to have some topics that you want to see us talk about, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you for that. And I want to say a big thank you for Razor coming on. You might be a bit late for your football now, but I really appreciate you coming on, mate.
No, and
oh, great. Yes.
No, yeah, I knew how long this was going to take.
There we go. Perfect planning. Thank you for coming on. It's actually, it's such a pleasure to have another Arsenal fan on this platform. We've got to outnumber the other side, the up block out here. And as always, have that, mate.
Thank you for having me,
commiserations have been shared.
And this is sick. If you're watching this, you should definitely do what Jonty said and subscribe. I subscribe today so you can be like me, because whenever you watch this, it's going to be today for you, so you can be like me and subscribe today.
Come on, there you go. Listen to the Arsenal. There you go. The wisdom is coming out. All right, cheers everyone, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, Ant. Cheers, Razor.
Cheers, guys. Take care.